I don't know how Skype works.
All right, Rob's
Hey.
in.
Hey,
Hello.
All right.
how's it going?
It's going well. This is this is where we are. I have my assistant with me, who is definitely not going to leave the room. So
Is it also a
Okay.
cat?
yes.
Hey, me too. Cute.
Anyway,
We'll see. It's cute right now.
we can always use a pet sidekick for the podcast. We haven't really, despite the fact that we both own cats, Fort and I, we haven't quite turned any of them into the Instagram I don't know, sensation that we need.
Yeah.
But Fort's trying harder than I am, I will say.
Oh, that's not up to me. Jer will hear the fact that I'm talking to somebody but can't see who, so he assumes it's him.
So, anyway, hello, and welcome to Modern Metamorphoses, the podcast that looks at comics, prose, movies, TV shows, and other media involving the physical or mental alteration of its characters, or metahuman themes. Striving to be insightful, respectful, and inclusive, this series does at times discuss adult material, but itself is in fact all access. Join us now as we look at how metamorphoses in media have evolved into our modern era. And I am Dan Standing, the comics, and I screwed up my order of operations again. It's so close, so close. I
You're
am
killing
the
me, Smalls.
transformation comics and prose writer and creator, Dan Standing.
And I'm Alex Fort, fantasy fetish researcher and scholar. And accompanying us today is...
I'm Robclassact. I am an author of size-related fiction.
Ooh.
Yeah, fellow prose writer and also a comic creator as well, I believe, right?
So it is similar to a comic, or it is like a comic. We can chat about that later.
There we go. We can argue about the details of that as we go. Now, of course, as we get into the actual recording, my throat's decided it's going to get all phlegmy, so
Here,
that's going to be
You get
fun.
some water. I'm gonna tell Rob it's okay about that pause. Sometimes I get so enamored because just like the way that Dan like delivers stuff, I'm just like and then it's
Okay,
like
good.
it's like my turn, and I'm like, oh shit, and we just like play it cool,
Okay, so it's not just me that gets enamored with Dan.
right?
Oh, you flatter me.
Oh, this is an awkward time to admit that, I guess.
Speaking of flattery, Rob, I do want to just say that I'm a fan of your stories, particularly one called "There's an App for That."
Wow.
I quite enjoy that one very much, and I personally recommend people seek it out to get a sample of what I really enjoy of your work. So,
Thank you.
we're super glad to have you on the show with us, and you brought with us not only your delightful self, but also this episode's movie recommendation. You can certainly feel free if you like.
This movie recommendation is Apocalypse, California, which came out in, I want to say, 2011.
I think you're right.
Did.
Thank you.
Yep. I'm cheating.
I checked that
the
today.
IMDb page. Yes. We're allowed to have cheat sheets open, and I have the best one open. Good old IMDb.
And if you're wondering, that's my cat in the background. That's Luna. And she's an aspiring writer also, but she only writes in cat. But if you want to read some side stories in cat, I can start posting them.
Nice.
I mean, it's always important to expand the genre. I think,
Yeah.
We really do. We're supposed to be inclusive here, and so absolutely
Sure.
be. So Apocalypse, California. Rob, you're the first person who's ever actually mentioned to me that this movie existed I already knew about it when you brought it up, but I honestly don't know how well known it is in the size community. Like, do you have a sense of like how many people are aware of this film at all in the community?
I think it was generally, and I'm speaking from my own lore and my own experience, but I believe it was one of those movies that at the time it was an independent film. It is an independent film, and and one of the things that I find interesting about it is one of those films that the trailer is very, very different. And it provides a different view of the film than the film itself and how it actually plays out. And so this film, due to some of the clips featuring a giant woman running around smashing things, I think generated a lot of enthusiasm. And there was a period where people were very excited about the film, and and I it looked interesting to me. There was a giant woman running around smashing cars and people, and I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. That's normally what gets me into films. And so yeah, I remember, and I checked it out, and it is a little bit different, but it was definitely kind of its concept is a bit chaotic. And I actually Dan, is the synopsis in front of you?
It is. I can give a dramatic reading of the IMDb synopsis.
I wonder if it's the same one that I remember, but go ahead and read it.
Sure. Wry, cynical, and full of offbeat humor, Apocalypse, California is the story of friends as they prepare for certain death at the hands of a massive asteroid, sex-inducing drugs, a 300-foot giant, and a horde of other absurd problems.
Okay. That was a delightful reading.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So dapper. I wasn't expecting it.
But I remember there was another one I'd seen that ended with something like, and a guns blazing adventure. And I'm like, I don't even know did they fire a gun in this movie? I think they do toward the end. But
there are guns.
Yes,
there are guns. Yeah.
There's a lot of gun toting, but not a lot of gun shooting.
There's a lot of gun toting in the film.
I think there's one instance where they do try and use the guns on said 300-foot giant, and I believe one of them literally screams, "The guns do nothing!"
The only time the gun's really effective is like when she pulls it out in front of those kids, which I will note is one of the highlights of that movie. If you put that in a trailer, I would have watched that movie, because it's not often you just see like a grub, like the kids are like pestering this woman, and she's like, "Gun!" And the kids are like, "Oh shit!"
I forgot. I hadn't thought about that. It's a pretty absurd scene. and in this movie, that's saying a lot.
Yeah, that's just. Did you guys? I'm trying to remember. Dan, you might know this answer, or actually Rob, you might too. There's a movie with Patrick Stewart where he plays like a former CIA agent, and he's like under house arrest or something, and this girl keeps coming in to like check in on him. And at one point, Sir Patrick Stewart walks out into his yard, and he just goes, "Those motherfuckers are killing my lilies," and unloads like a 9mm into his yard.
I can't say I am familiar with that one. I thought you were going with a different science fiction film,
no,
but I don't know that one.
Totes not science fiction at all.
How have I lived this long and not seen this? This sounds fantastic.
I'm Googling this right now.
I mean, I love Patrick Stewart, but the crazy things Patrick Stewart has done in film has kind of been diminished for me ever since he played the poop emoji. So.
Oh, that's true. He did do that, didn't he?
Yeah.
Once you're Sir, you can pretty much do whatever you want, and I mean, I start thinking of what I would do if I gotten enough accolades, and playing the poop emoji might be something I would end up just doing.
Okay, it is called Safe House, and at the end of it all, I was just reminded when the girl who's watching over him comes out, she's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Pest control," and then unloads like another 2 rounds into a molehill. It's amazing.
Oh, that is truly amazing.
Yeah,
I'm definitely going to be.
That's the only thing I remember about it.
I'm definitely going to be looking it up later, that's for sure.
But, why are we doing this movie? Why aren't we doing the Patrick Stewart shoots his lawn movie? I don't care what transformations are in it.
Oh, no, IMDb. A retired U.S. Black Ops agent gets Alzheimer's.
Oh, I'm feeling much worse about my laughter just now.
Never mind.
Anyway.
Damn.
Shifting back onto the topic at hand.
Yes, less distracted.
I would say, since I am more of a jack of all trades when it comes to transformations, I actually discovered this film, I believe, through the like the gender swap TV tropes page, because in addition to the giantess in this film, there is also a gender swap between two. Well, actually, a body swap between two characters.
Yeah, they get Freaky Friday'd.
Yes, and so that is how I first discovered the film. But I learned about it well after all of the official ways to watch it had been already like taken offline, like
which was what, a year after it came out,
something like that. So being the person who just likes to research contact information and pester people for things that I want, I found director-writer Chad Peters' contact information and emailed him. And after a little bit of, I guess, proving that I wasn't a bot, he finally responded to me, and is a very pleasant individual who, after I purchased a DVD, I PayPal'd him like $20, and he sent me actually 2 DVD copies.
Can you send me one?
Well, one is unopened, so I'll track it down and see where I put it.
I mean, if need be, I can contact him too, but, you know.
That was so fast. You're just like, can I? Here's how you get one. You just email him and say, we've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty.
So I just want to be upfront that my acquisition of this film is a little bit personal to its writer-director Chad Peter, who I always just like to be transparent about all things. I won't say though that I think this is a perfect film, because it certainly is not. But I certainly enjoy like random parts of it. I would say that probably add up to most of the film.
I was confused for a portion, and then I kind of got it, and I was like, oh, okay, this isn't like a literal film. Cool. And then it made a lot more like internal sense.
It is a film that isn't interested in telling the audience any more than it's totally out of their depth and confused as to what's going on characters know. I'll say that for the most part.
You know, I was thinking about this today. I started rewatching it yesterday and finished it today, and I was thinking, I'm like, this is the film that I would write. And I mean that in the sense of, I've never written a film before, and I've only written fetish fiction. And so, yeah, this is probably how it would turn out if I were to write a movie.
Yes.
And so, yeah, like in the most literal sense, like this is the movie that I would write right now as a person who's never written a movie before and barely writes in long form. Like most of my stuff is fairly short. And so, yeah, like it's, and I should also say, I also realized watching this film, the reason I knew what year it came out is because I checked today. Yeah, it came out before there's an app for that. This film definitely inspired a lot of that story.
Yeah, I can see that. I'll say, looking at Mr. Peters' IMDb page, this was also his first full-length motion picture that he wrote, and first full-length motion picture that he directed as well.
Oh, writer and director? Does he star in it?
No, he does not star in it.
Oh, cool.
But I would actually say, when we can get to the plotting and the writing and some of that aspect of it, when we kind of break down into the plot and go through the cause process impact a little bit of everything here. But I would upfront say, and this might be because of his background as a visual effects overseer, that's not right, supervisor, because he's overseen the visual effects for like Mr. Robot and Gone Girl and Mindhunter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that would explain the cinematography, actually.
Yeah,
it's
very good.
Yeah, it's a really beautifully shot film for the most part. There's one scene when the male character first wakes up as a woman, and he's looking in the mirror, and there's that one stupid like break between one mirror panel to the other one that just keeps getting in the center of the shot, and I'm like, just move 2 inches to the left. That outside of that one shot, I do think the whole thing is beautifully filmed, and cinematography is great, and the visual effects for the most part I think are really nicely done. The asteroid and some of the like pan up to space as the oncoming doom approaches, I think look very good.
Yeah, there was some cool visual. I am very much not a visual person, and I mean I appreciate like things that are when they look nice, they look nice. But I'm not one of those who has like ideas in my head of, oh, this would be a great shot or that would be a great shot. I'm one of those who's normally somebody says, hey, look at that, that's a great shot, and I go, yeah, it is.
You can appreciate
and now
it.
that you've said that, I'm like, yeah, that movie was really well done visually.
Yeah.
One thing
Oh, go ahead.
No, please.
I was gonna say I've been watching a lot of like visual effects videos on YouTube because they're fascinating when they like break down like how stuff is done. And so now it's like I watched this movie and I was like, man, this is surprisingly well shot for like an independent film. And then you tell me like a VFX guy did it. And I'm like, oh, yep, that makes total sense. And you can see like how they kind of cheat the camera a little bit for like you don't actually really see the meteors like hit the ground. It's just kind of like Cloud Effect 7.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like really well done. Like I would say that it doesn't do any like the cheap gimmicky stuff that you often see in movies like this, where like someone has like an effects studio, like an effects library, and they just like slap it onto like the frame in their video program, and it's like, okay, so lightning bolts, okay.
I also do feel sometimes where that old adage of if all you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail, where it's like if all you have are 27 visual effects, every single film plot looks like a bunch of explosions happen on screen.
Yeah.
But that's not the case here. I will also want to add, and Rob, you kind of touched on this a little bit. Even though there is like body swap and a giantess running around, I kind of came away from this film after the fact feeling like there was an idea that those things were put into this film to help realize, as opposed to those things had an idea put around them to help realize, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like when I took some notes as I watched it again, and I kept describing this movie as very much a collage of ideas.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to put it.
There's and when you're writing stories, like in terms of, I'm not one of those who prescribes to like a story has to have this element or has to have this element, but there has to be a balance of strengths and weaknesses if there are going to be weaknesses. And so this is one of those movies that there was just so many little moments that I liked. And actually, one of the things that I particularly appreciated, I thought the writing was very good. Like, I didn't think the plot as a whole like necessarily was the strong point, but the individual writing. There were a lot of really clever, really great jokes, really great lines. That was one thing I really appreciated about this. And again, it makes me think of my own struggles a lot of times writing long form. Is that I like to rely on gimmick or like a gimmick or an idea that I can just kind of play out, and that's fun. But like then stringing it together into a long idea, that takes a lot of planning and that takes a lot of skill and practice. And so, yeah, this was very much kind of a collage of ideas. And when it was done, I was like, okay, I enjoyed it. I'm not entirely sure what you were trying to say.
Yeah. I'd say that what I noticed about the writing is that like it felt very human, and I think it's very well realized by the actors. Like I've auditioned for some parts where like I'm reading the script and I'm like, I don't know how to deliver this because I don't know what you're trying to say. Like they adapted like some really obscure poetry into a thing, and I'm like, the light falls darkly on the what? Okay. But like this one just like it felt real. It felt like half of it could have been very well like here's the situation improv, and the actors did a great job with it. It felt very natural. And then, but like, I think the order of events absolutely felt like, I want to get this set piece. I want to get this kind of shot. I want to get this idea. Wouldn't it be interesting if, and like, maybe there's like a deeper, like metaphysical idea about like what's happening, kind of like the whole, like the fable kind of moral answer that I'm missing because I was just kind of stuck on like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah, but there's a lot of that.
There is a lot of that, but it's like I know there's like a grander purpose beneath it, but I honestly couldn't tell you. Like if you were to ask me a question, like when you're sitting watching a movie and someone's like, "So what are they doing?" and you're just kind of like, "I actually have no idea." Like what were his wishes? I can't tell you. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of that concept of you should be able to describe your work in a sentence, the elevator pitch, as they say.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a really big fan of that. And I'm willing to provide a lot of I mean, you can still be obscure, but I mean, to be able to say like, what's the main idea? Like, it actually made me think of the anime movie, Your Name.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys both seen that?
I'm
familiar with it.
It's been on my list. My partner wants to watch it, but doesn't want to
and
cry today.
It's a good film. I have a friend who hates it, but I think it's generally considered a good film. And one of the things that I think is really neat about it is that one of the main parts of the plot is that there are a young man and a young woman who switch bodies, but somehow that's not the main plot. And that's not actually the main driving force of the film. Like, there's they managed to knit a story there that, like, this is a thing that happens in the film, and it's a thing that it's kind of like the opposite of Apocalypse California in the sense that they play up that aspect very heavily in the trailer, and then once you watch the film, you're like, oh yeah, that's a thing, and it serves the plot, but that's actually not the main driver of it's not a Freaky Friday film. Like, it doesn't feel like that when you watch it. And the same thing a little bit with this one, which was kind of unexpectedly a Freaky Friday film.
Yeah, I did not see that coming at all.
I did not.
Like, usually that's like the selling point. It's just like, how wacky is it that they're in different bodies, and then like,
yeah,
it just kind of happens.
Yep.
I think we've probably teased the listeners long enough of the plot of the film. We've I think if we begin to kind of pick along the series of events that make up the 80-some minutes of this film, we can start to give a bit of a better idea of what it is we're talking about. And I think I can start by saying that the film, first of all, it opens with an Act 1 card. And then...
Yo, what the hell?
I didn't question that. I don't know. That part is... I think every time it happened, I was always a little surprised. I was like, oh yeah, there's acts in this, apparently.
It really takes out the immersion, which you can accomplish. There were times I was just kind of like really like into what was happening, and then it's just like Act 2. And I'm like, what?
So, Act 1 begins on a beach. There's like a beach party going on with our main character John and his brother Hank and their lady friends, particularly Cammy, who John and Cammy have had this like long weird relationship, which just gets weirder as the film goes on. But there's clearly some history there. Yes, and there are two individuals watching them in like white shirts and shades, and they're almost like, FBI agents or Secret Service. Like, we gotta watch. We're watching this group here. Yeah, we are.
Business casual Men in Black, I think.
Looked like mall cops because their shirts didn't really fit.
Part of me did expect like Cobra Bubbles to like walk up alongside them and be like, we got to get these aliens like out of here. Where's Experiment 616?
They're like, oh wait, these are the aliens. Never mind.
Yeah.
Oh no, because they're wearing aviators and white button-ups.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Like, no badges, no
nothing,
no details.
Throw this out there just as a brief thing that we will come back to later. But I think after watching it again, I think the guitar player may be one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, he had a magnetism about him I did not expect.
This is the thing, and I want to stress this as we get into this film. I actually would gleefully watch this movie again, if not because I 100% believe that there's stuff that I overlooked, because I know that it took me this kind of half-second watch through to be like, oh yeah, that's the same guy who's at the end of the movie. Like,
it just clicked down.
Yeah, it just doesn't. You don't see him again until then. But regardless, these two individuals are there. The female agent, who on IMDb is called Sassy Boots, but I don't think in the film she's ever given a name.
Wait, hang on.
Oh no, she says her name is. She identifies herself.
Oh yeah,
as
on the radio.
On the radio, yes, her DJ name. And
that could be your legal name.
I could not tell you their names. I just remember John, Jacqueline, and someone else. Like,
you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're the two people.
And they yell their name the most, I think.
Yeah.
They do scream those names a lot.
Yeah.
So, Cammy and John have kind of a falling out, and she storms off, and John and Hank get into this kind of fight where this is where I'm presuming all three wishes are established, but I've only really, even on a another rewatch of this scene before we started recording, been able to track down 2 of them.
Okay. So what are they?
Well, one is about John being made fun of for being particularly, and I'm quoting here the movie. This is not how I would prefer us to talk about these things, but as being particularly feminine and a little bitch.
I missed that. Oh my god.
Yeah, I remember that.
I actually missed what brought on the. Well, no, I heard that part. I remember him being described as that. I don't remember that being netted into the wish.
And then Hank talks about how John has to get over his hang-ups on Cammy, which is also a weird hang-up, which will come up later. And Hank says, if she was a 300-foot giant, I'd crawl right up in there and do what had to be done.
Oh,
and
yeah.
John just kind of goes with that. So I caught those 2 things. Now, as we go on into the film, there is clearly what I believe is the third wish that I have no idea where it comes from in this conversation, which I think is the sex-inducing male and female pills that come up later on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to have to say is probably one of my favorite plot points. And also, again, making consistent references to things that, well, one thing that I just find funny is out of nowhere orgasms. I think that's hilarious. I mean, I think sex in general is funny, but objectively. And but like that concept, there's an old story that I read, old B Story Club before they started doing comics, called Mutation, that I will constantly recommend to folks because it contains a plot point. It's about a guy who basically has the mysterious ability to give women orgasm people, just specifically women, or whatever the story defines as that limitation. But anyway, he, through hand-to-hand contact, he can give women orgasms and make their breasts grow. But it's not always both things. Sometimes it's one or the other. And the story plays it very straight-faced and not necessarily as overly parody fetish. And it really kind of plays it as, this is just kind of what happens and what would happen if this was the case. And it made me think of this film, and I think that inspired some of the events in There's an App for that.
Yeah, and honestly, randomly induced orgasms is an interesting thing that I also like to write about and play with. It's a fun thing in fiction, and
not in real life, of course.
No. But well, we'll get to the pills. Because there's there's a weird amount of like world building that goes into this, because after this scene, which again comes right after the Act 1 placard, we then have another placard comes up that's not for another act, but just to inform us that we've jumped a year into the future from that scene, whereupon the world has already been dealing with for a few months now the knowledge that a giant asteroid is going to be striking the planet and killing everybody in the course of, I think, 3 days at that point, where we catch back up with John. And I think as he is trying to check off things on his bucket list, John has decided that he is going to go and try and, let's say, romance a long-lost opportunity at love with a woman called Jacqueline.
That was weird.
Well, I mean, this is one of the things I appreciate about the film is, I mean, the idea of what would it be like if we knew for a fact that an asteroid was going to hit the planet in 3 days, and ignoring the fact that it would cause a lot of other problems probably before, I don't know, I assume there'd be like weird global warming or cooling or something problems if an asteroid was approaching the planet.
But are we going to pretend that America wouldn't build a gun?
Well, I mean,
we wouldn't build a big gun to shoot it out of the sky.
They wouldn't get very far. I would expect another country to pull that off. I mean, America would want to. I don't think we would actually be able to muster it together. The bidding war over who's going to build it, and we'd build
the asteroid's going to pay for it.
Blow up Oklahoma or something. But yeah, like it's just interesting to think about like society-wise, like if we knew that everything, I assume all of society would go through the 5 stages of grief, and by 3 days before it happens, we'd probably all be in acceptance, I assume. And so it's kind of neat to see that kind of played out.
If we were in a Mad Max society.
That is the thing, though, is that almost all the time it's like, well, the strong have, conquered the weak of society, sort of like the end of the world is coming sort of thing plays out. But this one, not necessarily not for probably budgetary reasons, but in this case, it does certainly seem like, the humanity has kind of come to grips with the fact that everybody's going to die in a few days, and everyone's just kind of being chill about it. And gas
they do
costs,
say that.
Yeah. And
they
gas
point that
costs
out.
$70 a gallon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was interesting.
Who's driving?
That's the thing that I liked about the writing. There were little things like that. And I was like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I was always under the impression that basically the strong went to subjugate the weak, and then they like burned themselves out because they're short-term thinkers. But like they knew the asteroid was coming for like 10 years, right? So like by year 5, basically every tyrant basically killed themselves off.
Yeah.
And so like for the next 5 years, it's like, well, there's gangs of kids, and they took my clothes.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
dude, if you got like the world's about to end, beat up a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's my quote for the day.
Like they're 5. Like you could just trip them. Like what? You got
They're not,
reach.
They
They're not
might have
gonna
guns. I don't know.
They're not going to stack on top of each other and fight you as like
They're not
multi-armed.
Voltron. You can throw them in a Chevy, and the childproof locks will do the rest. What is wrong with you?
But so in this environment, John's trying to mac it with Jacqueline, who does not remember him, and the entirety that we meet Jacqueline for before this. Spoiler alert: that those are the two characters that end up body swapping. Is just somebody's already come to the house and stolen all our crap. Here's a gun. I don't remember you. Go away.
Pretty much. I don't want what you're selling.
Yeah. So John kind of puts his tail between his legs and then goes to see Cammy after not having seen her since the beach incident. And we find out that there was a rumor where she had a supposedly very gross mole on her privates.
She says clitoris, right?
Yes, specifically directly on the clitoris.
Yeah, I'm not afraid to say it.
And this is in all ages, whatever.
Clitoris is anatomy. It should be all ages.
Technical term. It is all ages. Yes, exactly. So, so John has always been kind of put off from Cammy in all fashions for fear of one day having to encounter the mole.
To confront the mole.
Yes. And he again strikes out with this weird phobia over it, and Cammy kicks him out.
Yeah, he strikes himself out. It's so weird.
And we're assuming he's just a big fan of cunnilingus and is going to be down there or like looking straight at it, I assume, is his thing.
That's the fear, apparently.
I mean, John's a very giving partner. He's willing to go down on her, but he is afraid that he will see a mole face to face when his face is in front of her vagina.
And apparently that's too much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So he buggers off to his brother's boat where he gets drunk, and then Sassy Boots shows up again.
Yeah. I didn't even realize it was like the same person from the beginning. Right?
That accent and everything, I like her. Her and the guitar. Those two are probably my favorite.
I knew she was the DJ, but that's it. And so like this lady walks in and she's like, I'm going to give you wishes. And he's like, what? And she's like,
oh, she was there.
Yeah, it's like, you just got to kiss me. He's like, what? The whole time she's talking, and it's just like, this seems like magic stuff. And I like the fact that he's just like, this seems stupid. What is going on? I know the world is ending, but there's better ways to get your tricks, like to get your laugh off. And,
well, he was trying to get laid. Like, I mean,
yeah,
can't be too
but
rude.
like, even when she's like, you can just kiss me. He's like, I mean, I'm desperate, but what?
Yeah. It is fun that it is probably exactly like what a drunk person would react to if told, "Oh, you're gonna get wishes." What? What?
If I was in a bar and a woman sat next to me and started talking prophetic, I would be like, "What?"
Ooh. Sorry, I have to call attention to one more thing that came up. I made a note to mention this. That shirt from what's John's name? John's brother's name?
Hank.
Yes.
The Not a Baldwin shirt. I really appreciated.
Oh, yeah.
He wore a t-shirt that said Not a Baldwin.
I was convinced he was a lesser Baldwin because of that.
Yeah, that was one of the things probably top 5 things I love about this film.
the whole time and the world's ending and he's wearing a not a Baldwin shirt.
He did kind of look like a Baldwin.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just enough that the shirt was funny.
Yeah. You guys have the IMDb open. Is his last name Baldwin?
It is not. He is Alexander Cardinal.
Oh, he must have married out of it.
Yeah, I'm convinced he's a Baldwin. That's my headcanon.
Honorary Baldwin.
my Baldwin fanfics that I write, he's definitely a Baldwin. Write a Baldwin fan.
You know, maybe his oh my God, he does, like, his picture on IMDb really does look like a Baldwin. Because he's a little slimmer in this photo than he is in the film.
So young Baldwin.
Yes, a young Baldwin. But not an Alec Baldwin. I would say more of a
Stephen Baldwin.
Yes, more of a Stephen Baldwin.
Yeah, one of the lesser Baldwins. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, I went to school with a gentleman whose real name was Chris O'Donnell, and he is now currently doing film and commercials and everything in Hollywood, and had to change his name because, of course, you know, union rules. So who knows? Maybe this guy's given name was Alec Baldwin, and he had to change it to Alexander Cardinal because
isn't that what Michael Keaton had to do? Because his actual name's like Michael Douglas.
Maybe, could be.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a bunch of them.
I've learned so much already.
Yeah, I'm a repository for nearly useless facts.
But anyway, so Sassy Boots is like, you get wishes. He's like, fine, you know, screw this place, burn it to hell. And she's like, no, you already your wishes like a year ago, and now I'm just granting them now. No reason given for any of that. But
yeah, I didn't quite understand really what. Yeah, I didn't understand a lot of what happened.
Yeah, just Deus Ex Machina. We got to get the plot moving.
Yeah, that's what I can put.
Kiss me, you fool.
15 minutes into it.
Mm-hmm. So he passes out and wakes up the next morning in Jacqueline's house, in Jacqueline's body, and it's a pretty good and entertaining, like, waking up in the opposite gender body sort of realization scene, I'd say.
I thought the actress did Erin Bodine, is her name, did an awesome job.
Yeah.
In terms of the acting in the film, she was one of the standouts for me. She did a really great job.
All of them did a really good job, but she nailed it.
Side plug, there's a movie called Sam, if you haven't heard of it. That's also a gender swap movie. Actress does a really wonderful job about a womanizing guy who turns into a woman. It's an indie film. It's surprisingly good. I really enjoyed it. I encourage anybody listening and the two of you to watch it if you haven't heard of it.
I do actually have it in the Transformium, the DVD somewhere downstairs. And if memory serves, that is a Brooks the Younger written film.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes. Wait, this might be an unrelated Brooks. Nicholas Brooks. I just looked it up to check.
Okay, yeah.
Nope, it is the one who's the son of Mel Brooks. Yep. It's actually the son of Mel Brooks who wrote and directed that.
Yeah,
so,
I liked that one a lot too. And
I've been meaning to get to it.
Oh yeah, no, it's worth it. Definitely see it. But yeah, both that actress and this actress did a really nice job with the role.
And so it's a good scene. By the way, in case people haven't figured it out yet, cause for all of the transformations and such in this movie is Sassy Boots made it happen. Like,
Sassy Boots made it happen.
There's really no more to it that I can tell.
Heck yeah. I guess, you know.
Yeah, like vague genie-ish magic kind of thing. Because
wish gone wrong.
Nobody ever actually says I wish, except the things that Sassy Boots specifically says she's not going to grant. So
yeah.
I don't know exactly anything other than, you know, it's a weird morality-esque tale sort of thing where she's throwing back in his face things he and or people around him said a year prior.
I have never actually questioned why they changed genders. That's really funny.
Yeah, like, why swap with her? It makes little, like, external narrative sense, but, like, internally, like, I get it because, again, it's all a big metaphor. But yeah, like, when you try to follow, like, the flow chart of the plot, it doesn't really match up.
No. One thing I do wish that we had an opportunity to do before this happened is, like, get some sort of sense of who Jacqueline was, because we've only spent, I think, at most a minute and a half with her. She's kind of in a like moment of like, everything's awful, go away, don't bother me. That's all we see. And then once she's in John's body, we also don't see too much of her. She kind of just sits by the pool for much of the movie.
Yeah, according to John, that is actually her thing. And now that you mention that, yeah, that's kind of a running thing that she does. But they remember John actually mentions on his way out that, what does he say? Like, oh yeah, you touched my dick in like fifth grade or something like that. Like,
yeah,
it's just something weird like that. And you're like, okay. And I'm gonna go. One of my favorite things in writing actually is there's a lot of power when you're playing with the reader doesn't know this. Like I'm playing something out. I've already have in my head what this is and what their backstory is, but the reader doesn't know, or the listener doesn't know, or the watcher doesn't know. And so there's a lot of power in that as a plot device of I could explain this, but I'm not going to. But you have to know what it is. And like, yeah, there was, it didn't quite work how the things that I didn't know didn't work out in a very kind of artistic way that I would have liked.
The only like thing that's revealed that like author knew this and characters knew this and that we actually do finally learn, I think, is Cammy's reveal at the end in regards to the rumor. But otherwise, yeah, there is a lot of like, there's clearly history with the characters that we don't really ever see more into, including as we've checked in on them a little bit as the film has been going on, Hank and his relationship to a woman by the name of Renee,
who was also in Attack of the 50-Foot Cheerleader.
Yes, actually, I have Anne McDaniels' IMDb page open here because
I don't know why I thought you were going to say phone number.
No. There are a number of items on her IMDb page here, and I enjoyed Ms. McDaniels' performance in this. She's, I think, one of the highlights of the movie.
Are you going to mention what I'm thinking you're going to mention?
Well, a number of things that she's been in.
Her upcoming film?
You mean Ass Clowns Constipated?
Yes. I am not going to watch that.
I actually wasn't, because I could not for the life of me figure out what the heck it is.
Why won't you watch that,
I don't
want
to know. Because there are certain things that you just are happy knowing they exist, and there's a good chance that if you followed up on it, it wouldn't really be satisfying. I'm like that a lot of times with the headlines that I see, or if I'm on Twitter and I see like a headline for an article, I'm like, you know what? I'm pretty sure when I click on that, it's not going to live up to what I want it to be, so I'm just going to let it go and enjoy the fact that it's out there. And yeah, Ass Clowns Constipated.
I clicked on it.
No.
Silly, slapstick, raunchy, dark, independent comedy. Think South Park-like humor meets something about Mary and a little jackass thrown in for good measure. Who wrote this? Not the movie, just the synopsis.
Mm-hmm. Don't go down the rabbit hole. Let your mind fill in facts.
Oh, yeah. I'd rather go down a rabbit hole than this one.
Well, to give you a sense of where my quality lines are, there are two films on here. One I have decided I'm absolutely going to. Two films on her page that she's in that I have opinions on. One I'm definitely going to see, and one I'm definitely not going to see, aside from Ass Clowns Constipated.
It's not out yet, man.
One that I definitely am going to track down and try and watch is Poseidon Rex.
That is a great. The image for that one is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a fantastic title. The image looks great. I even kind of enjoyed the trailer. But a movie she's in, which I'm not going to see, is Ad Astra. I'm just not going to see Ad Astra. I have no interest in seeing Ad Astra.
She's in Ad Astra?
She is in Ad Astra as a hologram, apparently.
She's in Westworld.
Oh.
Yeah, she's in a lot of stuff, including, there's also, she's in here credited as Ring Card Girl, Stuffin's Thanksgiving Hostess, and $40,000 bra stripper for a show which in my head I should have realized was Conan.
Oh my God.
Conan, the comedian, but in my head when I saw that, yes, I definitely was like,
so too.
Oh my God, I didn't realize there was a Conan the Barbarian movie that ran from 2011 to 2019.
How have I missed that?
Wait, you don't want to see Cicada?
$40,000 bra stripper.
Yeah.
and a ring card girl and Stuffin's Thanksgiving hostess.
I mean, I'm not judging how someone's interpreted Conan the Barbarian for the modern age, but, whatever.
Man, she's got quite the IMDb. I'm proud of her.
Yeah, I really liked her character in the movie. I think all the I'm not sure how to get this across. I guess all the characters that were played by women. I actually, you know what? Not even true. Hank, I liked too. I think John, I liked the least.
Well, yeah, because he was literally the weakest character, but it was based around him as a frame of reference point.
And I didn't even like John when John was what's her name? Jacqueline, yeah. And I wanted to like. Well, no, that's okay. No, that's true. I just didn't like John. That's where we're landing.
That's fine. I think I think most of the people in the movie don't too. So
yep.
I agree with You're not supposed to like John.
No. So
even John doesn't like John. You're not supposed to like him.
So we've touched on the cause, and then the process is pretty simple. They all just kind of wake up as they are. There's no like on-screen like swifting of things, or when we eventually see the 300-foot giant woman, like there's no process for that. She's just a giant already. So everything kind of happens off screen, but we do get some really good reaction from Jacqueline and John as they each kind of face the bodies that they've woken up in.
Oh, that scene. I really loved cinematography. We were talking about cinematography. I did notice when John and Jacqueline's body goes to his place where his body still is, and sees Jacqueline, but then the camera, you see Jacqueline in the mirror. Mm-hmm. I thought that was really, really cool. Because I could even see like, I don't know otherwise what I would do, because it would just be kind of underwhelming to just see John's body laying there. But like giving it that kind of extra edge of like kind of disembodiment, you have John looking at his own body, but then it's shown in the camera in the mirror, which I thought was pretty cool.
Something I'm going to give them some credit for, the fact that John busts in Jacqueline's body and sees his body laying on the bed, whips out a gun, and is just like, hey, you're my body. And she wakes up and his body just goes, why do you look like me? And they have the same exchange 3 times in a row, because one just woke up and the other one's a little delirious.
And one has an erection.
And one has a penis. Yeah. And that
an erect penis. Let's be accurate.
And so that's that moment really sold it to me of just you could very well just write this like a sitcom or whatever. It's just why do you look like me? What's going on? And then they just move on to the next piece of dialogue. But the fact that they're stuck on it for 30 seconds.
Oh yeah.
And this movie is an hour and a half at most. That's valuable time. And I think they spent it well.
Yeah,
I'm confused.
No, I agree. I loved it.
So once John and Jacqueline kind of get their act together, we catch back up with Hank and Renee, and again, we don't know the relationship between Hank and Renee. We can presume that they've had sex at some point, but they don't seem to particularly like each other.
Yeah, I think they kind of
a friend like that.
became friends in the apocalypse.
Okay.
You're the only other one person I can tolerate and probably trust.
Nah, they're longtime friends. I know that kind of relationship.
Well, they're certainly entertaining to watch. And this is the point also where we end up with the third wish thing magical happening, where Renee has come across these 2 wallets, one of which has pills in it that make you experience sex with a man, and the other one is experiencing sex with a woman. And
a specific man and a specific woman. That's amazing.
Who we do learn more about as the movie goes on. But she just has these things, and likes using them. She's just this is great. I am just going to go pop one of these right now, and just experience sex is definitely the body is physiologically reacting to an internal fantasy. That's kind of how that is happening.
That makes sense.
It reminds me of those helmets from Demolition Man.
Yes.
Oh. Yeah. But I was definitely confused about the mechanics of it, because I just thought this girl was oh, cool, free drugs, and then takes a drug. It's this is pretty good.
I mean, that's accurately what happened.
Yeah, but like it didn't make sense to me. It's like, is this like an aphrodisiac drug, or is she just like high out of her mind? And they're like the whole confrontation scene in the kitchen. Like I was a little lost. And just like I took a pill and maybe had sex with you, dude. And I'm like, what? Dude, what?
And
take the pill, bro. I gotta know. It's like, what? What are you talking about?
See, and that was where that's where the movie kind of becomes this whole thing of the concepts and just the scenes, and is where I fell in love with this movie. Is like there's just these scenes that are so absurd, and the concepts are so absurd. Like I did see it as kind of a series of just like scenes that were entertaining. And then I had to keep remembering, like, oh, wait, this is in the middle of a movie that doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I feel like each little, like, mechanic could have been its own standalone film.
Oh, sure.
It's like a Jim Henson movie where every scene has something that deserves its own film, but you only get 10 minutes of it and you never see it again. Except for this movie, you do see it again, and then it doesn't make sense.
Dan, I'm pretty sure I was right. I was basically rewriting Apocalypse California when I wrote There's an App for That.
I mean, there's a lot of great material in here to be playing with, and I do not want us to skip over one of my favorite scenes where Hank is sitting there with like the passed out Renee after she's taken one of these pills. Yes. The ground starts shaking. There's like dust and gravel falling on him. It's getting in his mouth and he's spitting it out. Mm-hmm. And he like gets up and he's like, "The hell is going on?" And like fighter jets are flying over him, and he turns and he gets his first. His and the audience's first like peek at this 300-foot giant woman who and let's be clear is fully clothed. Like she's not a naked burst out of her clothes woman.
Magic man.
Yeah, fully clothed, magical woman who's always mysteriously a little bit silhouetted, so you can't see who she is. Stomping around, and he is like, "Oh, what?" And like looks to Renee, and she's like passed out, and he's looking back, and he's like, "We gotta get the hell out of here." And then it cuts to him with her over his shoulder, just like running and huffing down the street. And he like turns to look back to see if it's the monsters behind him, and he bops her head into something, and he turns back and keeps running. Like,
and why is she unconscious? Like,
she's high out of her mind.
I mean, some people just have a really strong afterglow. You know, it just takes you right in.
I mean, I get that she like you could be high, but like, yeah, why? Like, she took a sex pill. Why?
It's just one of those moments it's one of the moments that I just like really love in this film for the parts of the film that don't make sense or drag a little bit as you're going from like one sequence to the next. These are the parts that I'm just like, this is an amazing bit that you've done with all of the pieces you've kind of jumbled together at this point.
And that's why I recommend the film to particularly those who like my wife watched the film and she likes it. And I remember I came home one day and my father-in-law was over and she was watching it with my father-in-law and he loved it. It's an entertaining movie. There's a lot of question marks, but it's one of those moments add up to enough that I find the experience rewarding as long as you aren't looking for, a fine film.
Yeah. So honestly, at this point, our four characters kind of come together because Hank calls up John and Jacqueline and John kind of go back and forth about who should answer the phone and who's talking to him. And eventually Hank gets them, puts them in the car, and they drive to where's the ground zero for the asteroid again? Palm Springs, yes. Meanwhile, Andy Samberg is, looping in time over and over again. But they go to this abandoned house in Palm Springs, and the rest of the movie is for the most part spent there until we get to the last 15 minutes. And it's kind of all of these things like the body swapping and the sex pills and believing or not believing that this has happened between Hank and Renee and trying to prove it, and weird uncomfortable information about ticks, that all just kind of rolls along, and you get some bits that are really funny, particularly when they're watching the news sequence, the final news broadcast from the city where the 300-foot woman is attacking, to just the threesome that they all have, and I don't want to look at myself while I have sex kind of thing.
The pills, that whole scene where Hank is trying to get John in her body to take the pill, and John understandably won't take a pill having sex with himself. I totally would, by the way, just for the record. Take a pill.
You would
not
or
John,
wouldn't?
I totally would take a pill having sex with myself. Especially if it's some weird idealized version of sex. I want to see how good I can be. Sure, let's go. I want to see this. And so, but like that scene, and then like, no, I'm not taking a pill of myself, which is a great line. And then Jacqueline in John's body comes up, snatches up the pill, takes it, and it's just like, oh yeah, that's John. And I'm like, wait, how do you know? But it doesn't matter because it's weird to take sex pills of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I like that bit where Renee is just kind of like, you have been given the greatest gift of all.
You're my new hero.
You're a man who is in a woman's body, and there is a woman in a man's body. There's a woman who like can just do it. This doesn't happen.
Oh, yeah. And the scene when we missed, but that scene when John and Jacqueline's body takes the pill, and in the bathroom.
Oh yeah,
that was a great scene. Like played really well by the actress, and like I liked how they played it out as this kind of fantasy in his head. Like I loved that scene. But yeah, and then of course when they had to all have sex together, obviously except Hank. Come on, man.
What a loser.
And that delightful line, oh, this is your great surprise. The two of you sitting here waiting to cornhole me.
It's another great line.
Like, it's moments like that I'm like, oh man, I wish I could have written that. That's awesome.
and I don't know if we've been particularly clear that the female sex pill is for Cammy.
Yes,
the woman from earlier in the film, with supposedly with the mole. Yes. Those are the her and John. Yes. Well, we don't know. We haven't learned that yet. But yes, so no one should be surprised that it is Cammy who is indeed the 300-foot giant.
Same.
Just wrecking the city. And I really just want to jump ahead to her, but we've got a few things we got to do before we get to her at the end.
And actually, Dan, for the sake of editing, can we pause while I go pee?
Yes.
And actually, you can leave this in if you want. This can be like your intermission if you want.
I mean, we've definitely had one of us walk away before. He's probably already left.
I'll be right back.
Oh, nope, there you go. So, Mr. Fort, I will say that I don't know if I would take a sex pill with myself. I'm leaning towards I wouldn't, because if I did, and it's supposed to be the best sex you could possibly have with that person, and I found it left me wanting, I would be weirdly disappointed with myself. I'm talking to myself now, aren't I? Oh.
Hey.
Was I just talking to myself all alone?
My mic was like my computer had a moment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Did I miss a lot? Are we alone?
Do you know what my opinion is on the sex pills based on what I just said for the last 5 to 10 minutes?
No.
All right.
Get thumbs up or thumbs down?
You'll just have to listen to the episode when it comes out.
I will.
No. I was saying that I would be afraid of finding myself wanting, and therefore would not take it, rather living with the uncertainty.
Ah, okay. Yeah. I find myself in a similar position, because it's like there's the part that's like, yes, just like the simulations, and the other part's just like, man, what if I'm like really good and I can't have it anymore?
What if I don't feel like I can ever be as good as I was with myself as the pill?
Well, I mean, I'm convinced I was. I mean, that's I like. Is it Fort? Sorry.
Yeah, it's me. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, we haven't said each other's names enough. We haven't screamed them like John and Jacqueline. Fort. So anyway, now where was I going with this? I got so into screaming your name.
It is context.
Fun. Fort.
Sorry, I'm stuck on the whole. I was so distracted screaming your name.
Yes. And yeah, like I would. I don't know. Like being a cis male, like I don't have a desire to have sex with another man. But if I had the opportunity to do so by taking a pill and having sex with myself, yeah, I would totally do that.
And knowing you'd have a good time.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the thing. Is it like mushrooms or like acid? Can you have a bad trip if you're not like in the right headspace?
No, apparently you can have a good time even if you are in a bad headspace, as evidenced by the movie.
Oh yeah, that's true. That is very true.
My concern is not the whole having sex with myself thing, because I have brought myself to climax before. This does not concern me. My concern is that like my ideal self, where it's like it would be how good I would be if I had decided to go to the gym every week this year. Like what version of me is the me that I am having in that? Because
the hottest version of you.
Well,
if
that's
you are
the thing,
your type.
It comes off to me that if John is having pill sex with a version of Cammy, he would know whether or not she really has the mole, unless it's his idealized version of her, which in that case certainly wouldn't have the mole. Yeah. So would it be my idealized version of me that I would be having sex with?
Yeah. And I mean, would you or me or whoever's having sex with themselves via pill be giving, like, just sitting there giving themselves a hand job, or would you like be with like a clone of yourself and just like be like getting it on with like you?
This sounds a little not safe for TV.
Oh, sorry.
If we're gonna get into real detailed theories, I'm gonna say doesn't matter what it is, it's gonna be good. I don't think it's the act, but the feeling. Yeah. Because if I understand anything from my research, it has little to do with the action and more to do with the emotion.
Okay.
If edging has taught me anything, it does not have to be intense to be good.
Yeah.
Can't disagree. No? But so these shenanigans go on, and eventually John is listening to the radio, and the only radio station broadcasting is Sassy Boots' radio program, and she congratulates John after the threesome for finally becoming a man. And as we've talked before, having sex is not the end all be all becoming a man, but whatever. This is a prior podcast subject that has come up before on the worst movie ever made. And
you reminded me of that.
Sorry. Anywho, the Sassy Boots, the DJ, gives instructions on where they're broadcasting from, and John, pretty much without really explaining what he's doing, forces everybody into the van and drives them into the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
See, that's why no one likes John. Don't be like John.
Because the one time he actually gets a backbone is that he drags people into the desert to die.
Right.
I mean, sex pills fell out of the sky. There's a 300-foot giant. You can say, hey, I'm pretty sure the magic genie that caused all this is in the desert. Like it doesn't make that much less sense than anything else.
Mm-mm. But he doesn't, and he doesn't bring any water. So they're wandering around. When we do start to see, and this is actually, so this at this point of the film where there are a number of the reasons that I appreciate and respect Apocalypse California for the choices it doesn't make. And as we're seeing these little like meteorite pieces that are raining down as the asteroid gets closer, there is never a moment where anybody is like decapitated or just
nobody dies.
No chest cavities. Yeah, it doesn't randomly kill anybody. And there's part of me that, like, in a lesser, like, weird independent film, like, some poor character or, like, random bystander would definitely have, like, a hole ripped through their upper cavities, by one of these.
I'm looking at you, World War Z.
Weirdly, also, I think written by Mel Brooks' son.
Max Brooks?
Max Brooks, yes. Yeah. I'm sorry, by Max Brooks. Anyway, so they go out in the desert. The 300-foot giant arrives out of basically nowhere, chases them a little bit until the random military people show up.
I think it's a militia.
Sure, it could be a militia.
Because they're not in Humvees, they're in Subarus.
Well, that's what Enterprise Rent-A-Car was willing to give them for the week.
Yeah. Take this Kia Sorrento.
And the military people again uselessly fire upon the giant, who then picks one up and drop kicks them.
That was fantastic.
It's just
nice. I mean, I'm not hugely into the violent stuff, but like that was just a nice touch. Like, and
it's funny. I found it funny in a grotesque way.
And Dan, can I also, like, you know, from the hundreds or however dozens of us that were waiting for this movie to come out as Giantess fans, like, I have to admit, like, I have to appreciate she had a good attitude as a Giantess. Like, she just there was no questioning it. There might have been a moment where like this 300-foot tall woman like was like, whoa, what happened? Why am I like this? Like reacting like John or Jacqueline. But no, she just went straight up rampage and just like went rampage the whole damn time.
Well, when she does eventually get shrunk back down, there is a moment where she's definitely in like her post-traumatic like moment where she's like, I thought I was dreaming. I crushed so many people. I thought it was a dream.
Yeah, honestly distraught. I actually felt really bad.
Yeah. And I was kind of
the victim here.
She's
the
terribly
whole movie.
Yeah. The whole movie she's just shat upon, and then she goes through this horrendously horrible experience. And
also awesome.
Well, awesome from our perspective. But
she had time.
Yes, during it, but there is this like extended moment where I think it's actually very realistically explored of like what one might kind of be going through when they realize, oh, all of the people I've been killing are real. It'd be kind of like if you were playing Grand Theft Auto and then somebody was like, oh, no, you're controlling a robot and you're murdering people in that city.
Yeah, it's when we talk about the impact from the cause process impact, there's a second cause process impact when she's not big anymore. And the impact is she realizes that she's a murderer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, no, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt the thought.
No, it's just that I'm totally with you actually on all those points. And I think what helps me I still feel bad for her definitely, and I'm going to let the cat in again. But anyway, I still feel bad for her. But that whole aspect when the first time I saw the movie, I didn't like the line, but when he was just like, oh yeah, logic hasn't been this week's selling point. And I'm like, actually, yeah, like she didn't ask for this to happen. It was thrown out. There was no reason for her not to actually go nuts and have a blast. It sucks. And there's really no way to help comfort someone after they, smash and kick and drop kick people. But
so
I don't blame her.
Yeah, if I had just woke up tomorrow and was like, oh hey, I'm 300 feet tall, I wouldn't be like, I've asked for this. It's like as this is life now.
Especially wearing your clothes. You're like, no, this is a dream. I didn't.
Yeah.
Nobody's clothes grow with them unless it's a cartoon for kids.
Yes.
Right. Or it's unstable molecules.
Molecules explain everything.
Yes. Is that a Hank Pym joke?
It is.
Flash joke.
It is. Also all that, but specifically it's the late 90s, early 2000s, whatever, Fantastic Four film.
Oh, wow. I wasn't expecting that poll.
I enjoy those two Fantastic Four movies. They're bad, but I enjoy them.
Kind of like what we're doing now.
Yeah. There's parts of it that are, I feel, produced with real effort and care for what they're doing. But anyway, before anything gets reversed, though, they're rescued by the military team. They find the tent, which, oh, by the way, given that, again, throughout most of the movie, I'm still trying to figure out why the hell is Renee here outside of,
because she's awesome.
Yeah, she's awesome. But there's this narrative reason for her inclusion that never really quite solidifies, at least in regards to her introduction. So I 100% thought that when Giant Cammy shows up again at the end and Renee is lagging behind everybody, that she was definitely going to get smushed, but does not.
Yeah, I thought about that.
Yeah, but she's in fact the one who discovers the tent that has Sassy Boots and, according to IMDb, Jim. And
Yeah, Jim.
Jim. The guitar player who wants to write a song about a 300-foot woman killing people.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The music in this, by the way, we haven't talked about it at all, but the music and song selection, for being things I've never heard of before, are pretty good.
Yeah. I really liked the closing song a lot. That was cute.
Oh, yeah.
But they find Sassy Boots. She kind of plays dumb with them. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Finally, as like Cammy is like stomping upon them, about to kill everybody, John's like, just take it back. Take back whatever you did. Just do it, please. And Sassy Boots kind of breaks character and smiles and is like, okay, fine. I guess you've learned your lesson, I say in that inflection.
Are you going to throw away everything I gave you? And I'm like, what did you give him besides a heart attack?
And sex pills.
Oh, and sex pills.
I hope they got to keep those.
Yeah, like,
nope,
I'll keep the sex pills to undo the other two things. And but unfortunately that is a plot hole left unresolved. But as Cammy is about to crush them all, John kind of, John's male body is cowering in fear, and all of a sudden looks at its hands and is like, oh, I'm back in my body. Jacqueline's back in her body. And then everybody's like, where'd the 300-foot giant go? And this horrendously emotionally distraught and destroyed Cammy comes like staggering through the desert like, the hell's going on?
Well, I thought she was still stomping.
Oh, yeah, that's true. She's still stomping.
Yeah.
It's very funny, actually. And then as the reality of what's happened kind of sets in, that's when she kind of curls up into a little ball, rocking and like, I killed so many people. And John goes over and, what do you say? There's no like Hallmark card for this situation. I'm sorry, I thought you were a 300-foot giant. Didn't realize you were really a 300-foot giant and murdered a bunch of people. Like, there's not that section.
If it makes it feel any better, there's an asteroid coming to kill us.
He does literally say that she killed people a lot more quickly than the asteroid would, which is a fine thing to say at that moment, but then later on when the asteroid misses the planet, so that kind of becomes a moot point.
Yeah, she just killed a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the movie keeps going.
Not for too much longer though, but yeah, they all eventually just kind of lay on the ground waiting for death, and then it literally just, you watch it like a potato rolling by a bowling ball.
It just whizzes by, and I don't understand how.
I don't know why it doesn't strike either. Like, I really do not know.
When you look at the nature of astrophysics, right? When you look at like the things at play, there are very rarely external forces. Because we can calculate what phase the moon will be in, like, in 100 years from now. We know where Jupiter will be, in theory, 100 years from now. Unless, like, a black hole kind of just, like, whiffs by, and we didn't see it coming because it's literally invisible in the void of space. Like, things are pretty predictable. And so if we, like, calculate, oh, yeah, there's a rock coming at us, and we're going to be in this position by the sun, and that thing's not going to be passing by anything, like, remotely close to throw it off with its gravitational field, we're going to get hit by a rock. Like, there's no, like, whoops, stray gust of wind knocked it to the side. Like, no, that's what happens.
Even if that's not the case, I feel like if you have an asteroid that is so big that it is A, larger than the moon in the sky, and B, close enough that you can see the individual craters on it,
yeah,
it's too late. Like, it's definitely going to hit you, but...
Yeah, the prospect of something that big moving by us might actually rip some air off of the planet. It would disrupt the atmosphere. Like, if it's depending on its actual size, if it's that size in the sky, it's very close or very big, and that's terrifying either way.
Considering what the moon does for our tides.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
A big piece of rock going pretty quick.
I mean, and they say sometimes when stuff is out there, they're like, oh, there's a very low percentage chance that'll hit us. So there obviously is some variance, but not enough that it misses the Earth.
Not to that degree.
The moon is moving about 1 kilometer a second around the planet. And that's relatively still in regards to like how far it is from us and like how quickly it looks like it's moving across the sky. Something moving from left horizon to right horizon in like 3 seconds is terrifying.
Yeah. That's a frightening speed.
It's bad. It's so bad. and so like that's the thing where it's just like, oh, it missed. We win. Ha ha ha. You mean to tell me that thing's not dragging other rocks? Because all small rocks have hit. It's usually not alone. There's probably a smaller but still big rock that may not be as fortunate.
Mm-hmm.
And I do love the fact that we're ignoring the breaking of the square cube law, as always. And, of course, the fact that her clothes enlarged with her or the body swapping.
Magic.
But, God damn it, you can't have an asteroid miss the Earth.
Yeah, if they say for 10 years it's going to hit us, it's going to hit us. Like, that's it. That's the game.
Yeah, the more we talk about this, the more I realize how lame that actually was.
Wait, and then, if I may, do the thing that I do every single time we bring up science. If you were to see the flash of a nuclear explosion, you would not be alive.
Absolutely. They are
if
dead.
you see it, it's too late for you. You are baked. You are irradiated to all hell, and you are dead walking.
Yes.
Right. And that's the thing we haven't mentioned peppered throughout the film, because it's weirdly peppered throughout the film. Is they keep talking about basically all the nukes have been stolen.
Yeah, like a terrorist group stole nukes, like, because they learned the world's going to end, and they're like, well, you know what? We're just going to take advantage of this chaos and steal some nuclear weapons. A movie on its own.
I think it was implied that it was a group of individuals who felt like that if the world was going to end, it was going to end on humanity's terms and not God's terms. Like,
yeah, it seems
sounds like an American
kind of thing.
Yeah, and I actually really thought that there was going to be something implied where, like, they had literally just piled all the nukes on top of Everest, and as the lake came by, they just set them all off, and it bounced it off the planet. Left. Just pushed this, not the asteroid. Yeah, just literally pushed the Earth a little bit out of the way.
Yeah, but I like Chekhov's nuclear weapon. I'm quite a fan
of that.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you said that. I had that note sitting right Chekhov's nuke.
Yeah. I would really love it if that was like a thing that the film tried to like solve everything with by saying like, oh, we just used all the nukes to like boop it off like out of the atmosphere. But it isn't that. Like the nukes are like going off like every like 100 miles in like a circle around them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
because I guess they're gonna like stop the meteor by blowing it up before it hits us. like Armageddon, but a little too late.
Something to that matter. And everybody, like all the characters who again would either be fried to a crisp or at least significantly irradiated, who are celebrating not dying today, but boy, man, I tell you, if you don't have a worse death in like 2 days, and or the nuclear winter that you're all openly discussing.
Did they not watch Terminator 2?
Is a bummer to this.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Terminator 2 taught me a lot about nuclear weapons.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And time travel.
And so, that's an odd aspect of the ending.
Yeah.
But I do kind of give them another point for it being an independent film that wasn't like all independent films must end in like death and tragedy for all our characters. Like, it's trying to give us a kind of weird happy ending for them.
Yeah, it's implied tragedy.
So, that's how the film ends. And then after the credits, there's a little thing that just says, enjoy the apocalypse that comes up.
So, I don't think I ever made it that far.
I don't think the movie understood when we were going to watch this and what was going to happen, but I blame them.
That's fair.
Yeah. And so the impact, again, as we said, poor Cammy is pretty much traumatized forever. And if the psychologists still exist, I expect that she'll be seeing one. And John and Jacqueline, as far as I can tell, learn nothing outside of John. Learning that Cammy never had a mole because Cammy started that rumor herself in an attempt to convince her parents to move her to another school because everybody there started a mean rumor about her.
No, that's a weird plan, but okay.
Well, yeah, sure. Because she was so embarrassed to be in that school because John denied her.
Yeah, like turned her down.
She was so embarrassed that she wanted to go to another school, which is understandable for like a 10-year-old.
Yeah, but don't make a worse thing about yourself than one boy didn't like accept my request to go on a date.
That's the end of the world when you're 10.
Yeah, I suppose.
And then, so she tried the rumor, but the rumor stuck and her parents didn't move her, so I guess that's actually worse. Yeah. That's some short-term thinking right there. I think John learned something, and that is that he just needs to kind of seize the moment and stop being so damn self-conscious.
Yeah, I suppose. And I don't know enough about Jacqueline's character to have any idea whether or not anything.
I'm rooting for the Renee Jacqueline
children.
I'm rooting for the Renee Jacqueline pairing.
That would be pretty fantastic.
I thought they made a good couple. I'm sure they kept the sex pills.
Mm-hmm. Because Hank does not deserve Renee. I think we can all agree on.
No, Hank's a piece of garbage.
Yeah.
But
he had some good lines though.
He did.
Good shirt.
Good shirts, yeah.
My favorite thing about his character is his shirt.
There was one line I remember that I particularly liked from Hank, and it was when they were waiting on the asteroid, and when Cammy confessed to making up the rumor, and then in the background you hear Hank go, "That's why both of you are so fucked up."
Yes.
Or you belong together. You're both fucked up.
Yeah.
Aw, thanks, Hank.
I do like that confession at the very end, where he just
the
world's gonna end in 10 seconds, so he just turns and looks at his younger brother and just I pooped on your Legos.
I was a Scientologist for a week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, all the things that you would admit to, I'm trying to think of the biggest secret I would drop to people I barely know in the post apocalypse, right? Because the apocalypse is when everyone deserts society, and so this is the post apocalypse. And it's just what would I admit that I'm just deeply ashamed of? Because I already have a podcast, so
you can do it whenever you want.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be anything people don't really know already. I wrote a really distinct paper about really obscure pornography, so what are they going to do? It's yeah, you won't shut up about it. We know.
You've based a surprisingly large portion of your post-paper life around having done this. So,
yeah.
That's way to use your degree.
We had the seat to the con. What was that?
Way to use your degree.
Yeah.
I mean, I've already told my family and loved ones that I also do this. They know, they were well aware of what SciScon was and why I was going to it. So I don't know what more secret there is to tell, honestly.
I bought a boat.
I'm a Scientologist.
Don't tell people about the boat. It's my ticket to Canada when we need it. So
I know at least.
You're gonna go across Lake Erie or wherever.
It's Erie. It's not that long.
Is it Lake Erie? Did I get that right?
Lake Erie
Hell
is
yeah.
Yeah. Lake Erie is our lake.
Boom! I nailed that.
It's a little. We can see Canada. It's not
Hang on, wait. So there's Michigan, Huron, Ontario, and Superior. Erie, and then there's one more?
Superior.
Holmes, Superior.
Oh, Superior, damn it.
Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, Superior spells Holmes. And it's MIMAL, which is Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri, Alabama, Louisiana, down the continent.
Wow, look at you with all your mnemonics.
I have no idea where I am.
There a large body of water nearby?
I guess the Pacific Ocean's kind of nearby.
I don't know if we have mnemonics for that big-ass body of water.
It is weird when you live so close to the lake where we are, because we are a block and a half away from Lake Erie, actually.
Whoa.
Oh.
It's not as fancy as it sounds. It is weird, though, where all of your wayfinding becomes based entirely around water or not water.
Sure.
Everything is in relation to, well, there's nothing north of here, so I know I got to go one of the other three directions.
Yeah, where I am, it's Interstate 5 that runs all the way from Canada to Mexico.
Nice.
Where I'm located, everybody's kind of always starts on, well, are you on the west or the east side of I-5?
Nice.
I'm in Indiana, so I follow my grandma's system before MapQuest existed, which is where is the nearest Dairy Queen, and use a triangulation formula off of the 3 nearest Dairy Queens to your desired location to find it.
That's awesome.
Nice.
I think it still works. I haven't checked because we only have one here, so I guess it's Well, you're in Bloomington.
I definitely know where mine is.
You're nearest Dairy Queen?
I know where mine is too. It's south of the lake.
Mine is about 3 blocks west of I-5.
Anywho.
Oh yeah, we got on quite a tangent there.
Where are we on this film here? I think I can safely say that I agree with Rob that I enjoy this film.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but the parts that are good are really good.
Yes.
Also, I'll before I forget this, I think that I am enamored with the idea of a film that, for at least a few moments, takes seriously the idea of what would happen if the giantess who just destroyed a town suddenly shrank back down and realized she may or may not have to pay for her crimes.
Yeah, usually when we get giantess stories, they usually are into it, like the power. But like,
and she was.
she wasn't even aware of it. Yeah. But then it's all
she doesn't
over.
end up dead. Like it's a giantess movie where she's not dead at the end.
Yeah, and she's not a giantess. Like she's back to herself with little to no consequence physically.
And most people didn't recognize her. I mean, her head was 300 feet away, so I could kind of understand, I guess. But I mean, it's not like they're going to tell on her. So it's like, yeah, she gets to kind of come. But she does have to live psychologically with it, which I thought was interesting.
Not for long, apparently.
No, yeah, it's your nuclear winter.
Yeah.
But they got a bunch of sex pills, so, whatever.
Yeah, that'll keep them warm.
The sex pills or the radiation?
No, I'm sure. Yeah.
It's kind of like how they used to think alcohol was like a magic warming liquid. You just drank it in the cold and you'd get warm, and then they realized, oh no, people are still dying. You just take a sex pill and you just feel warm afterwards, regardless.
Well, the difference is that a sex pill is a form of vasodilator, but you do burn more calories doing the sex things than you do like just drinking and existing. You become a radiator when you drink. You become more of an engine when you have sex.
Huh.
So you're saying they're also diet pills?
I mean, it's cardio. It's not a diet. It's an exercise.
I mean, Jacqueline just kind of shuddered on the ground when that was a great scene. I mean, Jacqueline and John's body popping the pill and just like falling on the ground and just like
on the tile.
And it was over pretty quick. No, this was the Jacqueline and John's body.
That was still like on the tile. Wasn't it in the bathroom?
No, this was that was John and Jacqueline's body was the bathroom.
Okay, and right,
then,
yeah.
And
they were near the pool.
Okay.
Or no, I think it was just like outside somewhere.
Yeah. I think they walked around from the pool onto like more cement.
Yeah, and he just she just took it, popped it, and then fell down. And then it only lasted a few seconds. Oh, that was definitely a John pill. I'm like, go John, I guess. Unfortunately, is done in 10 seconds.
I mean, or Jacqueline's just a slam bam, thank you, ma'am kind of.
Yeah.
Like that's she's no foreplay. She's just thank you, have a good day.
We have to assume at that point that Jacqueline obviously ejaculated in her pants. We browse over that. I thought was kind of unfortunate.
We don't stick with the nitty gritty. I think that's one thing I probably have to give props to this movie is that it focused more on not what is happening, but how the characters respond to it.
Yeah.
As opposed to some narratives where they focus so much on the environment and what happened that the characters are kind of an afterthought.
Yeah.
There's one more thing that I want to bring up before I think we put the final closure on our recommendations here, and that if earlier on you talked about John and Jacqueline's body with the gun pointing it at the little kids, and it's a fantastic scene, and in the same vein of the trailer, from what I understand, because I haven't watched it yet, but from the trailer being maybe a little opportunistic in the portions of the film it selected, the individual photos on IMDb are clearly very carefully selected from the scenes they are in. Because if you go to IMDb and you look at all 9 photos, there is a photo of a woman with a real nasty, I'm going to kick your ass face, carrying a gun. You'll note though that her finger is behind the trigger.
Poor
but
trigger
she's carrying
discipline.
this gun, looking like she's gonna throw down with somebody. And this is the scene. The people she is chasing off screen are a group of little children.
That's it. Yeah, that's the thing.
Those kids were being dicks, man.
She's so dumb. Like they were like throwing pinatas at her. It's just like,
and again, at him. I mean, this is he just recently got disembodied, so he's a little on edge.
But anyway, I can clearly say, Chad Peter, if you're listening, and who knows, Rolf Konevsky listened to our first episode, so who knows who finds our episodes. Chad Peter, if you are listening, I am so thankful for you for sending me the DVD. I am happy to have it as an entry in the Transformium. Yes, we don't have a lot of on-screen process, and there are weak moments in the film, but personally, I would say that if you out there have some method of watching Apocalypse California, whether there's like still an Amazon Prime version of it,
iTunes might still have it,
or iTunes has it, or if you happen to know how you can just annoy the director until he sends you a DVD after PayPaling him $20, you can. I would recommend watching this film.
Yeah. Can I give one more little prop? Something that like really stuck out with me. The bit where he gets smooched and he's like drugged, basically, by Sassy Boots.
Mm-hmm.
That the way that they affected the audio on that, really, like it was almost like one for one, like when you feel like you're about to white out and your hearing gets fuzzy.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like the audio direction and how like the audio effects were done. Like at one point, there's like the diegetic music. The music choices are very interesting. But like it's like kind of playing because it's like a transition scene, and then like they get into a car and it's playing on the radio. It just picks back up, so they just put like a high pass filter on it.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, it was seamless. It was good, and like for me, that's like I like that little like nuance, that little polish where you can turn something like kind of distractingly loud background music into diegetic music. Like I'm all for it.
Yeah, that was super cool.
Yeah. Because I was watching it with headphones on, so I was just kind of like, this is good.
Nice.
The pass out scene was really good, and it was kind of like, as a guy who's passed out a few times, it's really good.
Mm-hmm. From my personal experience, I can say someone did their research.
Someone has passed out before.
Mm-hmm.
And knows how to translate that to audio.
Before, I can also agree.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't do that in Audacity if I tried. Like I'd have to like watch a YouTube tutorial on how to do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would say for whatever one's opinion may be on the strengths or weaknesses of the script, the technical achievement of the film, I think, is very solid in all cases.
Yeah, someone's background experience in filmmaking is absolutely shown up.
Mm-hmm. So, all right. Well, I think that's a pretty strong across the board thumbs up on
Indeed.
Give Apocalypse California a chance.
Yeah, I was really worried about it not being very good just because like the track record of the movies we've watched. I think it was more of a laugh fest than anything else, but no, I actually really enjoyed it.
Yes, Mr. Peter, I would like to congratulate you on making a film that's better than Wish Me Luck. You've beaten that bar. So
everything is better than Wish Me Luck.
Yeah, and I'll even this had come up recently because there was that thing on Twitter that was like 4 movies that you're fairly sure that you like more than anyone else and I'm like, yep, and I'm including the people I know in the size community because I know the people who are in the size community are like, oh, it's not all about the giantess, so I don't want to see it now. And I saw it and I'm like, I love this movie, this is great, and it made me want to write one of the few long form stories that I wrote, and it inspired that one a lot. And so thank you, Chad.
Yeah, I would say that, of course, in regards to transformation themes, it's always great to have a film that really focuses around, the topic at hand, whether that be giants or gender swap or body change or turning to stone or trees or whatever that is. But, when you get a film that includes that even in a smaller aspect of it, that's fun to watch, that's a win, in my opinion. So. But, all right. Well, speaking of wins, I don't really have a better transition than that. Rob, you do some good stuff. Do you want to talk about
it? I did win recently, now that you mention it. Do some good stuff. So, let's see. You're catching me at we're in middle of November?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we're in the
I
middle of
asked as if I don't know. No, it's so we're in the middle of November, and I am currently in the process of wrapping up a 4-year-long serial story that I've been writing. It is kind of like a comic. Initially, it's called Ordinary Girls. Now it's starting to become hashtag Ordinary Girls, but not an actual hashtag. The word is actually written out in brackets. And that's where you can read the story. It's online at #ordinarygirls.com. Again, the whole word hashtag. It looks like I didn't think this through very well. And so that story is about, it's been a kind of slice of life series that I've been writing for now 4 years. And I wanted to do it as a comic, but I'm not an artist at all. So I wrote it as a series of kind of chapters that are all about roughly between 1,500 and 2,000, maybe a little over 2,000 words. And it's about 3 roommates, a 7-foot tall, 7'2" former NCAA basketball star who got kicked off of Team USA for smoking pot, and a former Stanford graduate who was in mathematics that decided she wanted to be a tits model instead. And then, I'll say a pinup model, because she would correct me. And then the third roommate, Alicia, who is a bodybuilder and also a cosplayer. And they live together, and the whole series kind of details their adventures on not a day-to-day basis, but I don't think I ever really expected the story to go on into 80 installments. And eventually the story started also becoming a vehicle for me to start incorporating commissions and commissioning artists to do depictions of the characters. But those turned into the depictions of the characters on social media. And so I learned Photoshop well enough to be able to take the commissions of the characters, put them into basically templates of Instagram posts. And so I got to depict the characters as they are in their online identities that way, and then show what their actual lives were on the other side of it, because that's something I've always been fascinated by. I will never be an Instagram model myself, but I was very fascinated by the kind of duality of life that they lead, and how it can be very, whether it's a pinup model or a cosplayer, and also just being famous and being notable, and then also having kind of a normal life beyond that. And so, yeah, it is very much a slice of life story. I've had a couple people describe it to me, and I would never have thought to describe it this way, as a deconstruction of the size genre, which I thought was an interesting way of putting it. But people point out that they see there's a bit of satire and parody of the community, the online community, because I do, Whitley, who's 7'2" and apparently still growing, or at least has been up until the story has began. She mentions there being a Yahoo group dedicated to her feet, and she mentions the weird, she posted a video where there was a video of her in high school, and it had to get taken down after they got too many weird comments on it, and just really getting a chance to write about these characters' lives other than being, for lack of a better word, and sadly, fetish objects. And there are kind of different ways that they take taking back hold of their lives. And there's a number of ways they can do that, and where the line is between the character they are as a online personality and as a individual. And so it's been a really fun journey. I'm about to wrap up the series as a serial, and it's going to go into a new form, which, congratulations, you're in the future. You know exactly how it's going to turn out. I still haven't actually worked out all of the details. And it was my goal 3 or 4 weeks ago. I was like, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to be able to announce it. But then I think you gave me the out by saying, oh, no, this is airing sometime next year. And I'm like, oh, well, if it's airing next year, I don't care then. I don't need to figure this out. I got time. No, I'm going to be changing the format of the series to be less serialized and more just individual and kind of episodic. It's now on Instagram, #OrdinaryGirls on Instagram, but again, not the hashtag symbol, actually writing out the word hashtag. It's on Instagram, and they kind of have their presence there. And I am actually going to be spreading out a little bit onto Patreon as well, and the series is going to be connected to that. If you are unlike me and you are currently in the future, I encourage you to check out my website, robclassactwrites.com, where you can find details of how I managed to do this, because I'm really curious.
Very nice, very nice.
This is fascinating to me. And if future me is hearing this and you have the ability to time travel,
if you could show up right now and walk in the door and tell me exactly what I should do and what I should not do relating to specifically Patreon, don't tell me about anything else, that would be awesome.
Wait, that's how you want them to spin that? You don't want them to go back and,
have sex with me? No, that's going to happen after they tell me about the Patreon stuff.
Deal with some other things in the year.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, that too.
Right. I really want to know if the Space Jam sequel is good.
Right?
Yeah.
I can wait for that. I'm okay. I mean, I'm excited about it, but I don't want to know if it's going to be bad. That's going to be sad.
Will Lola Blunny be more people's awakenings, or is it just going to be a huge flop?
Is that a pun? Or?
Yeah, is that a rabbit ear pun?
Oh, gross.
But otherwise, I mean, that's where I am right now, and that's kind of the main thing I'm thinking about. But otherwise, I'm hoping to be still, writing short stories. I do. Most of my stuff is, short form between 1,000 and, the higher end of my stuff is probably 10 or 15,000, but I like to do one-offs mostly for those stories. And I'm hoping to do more illustrated works. I've had the chance over the course of writing Ordinary Girls to connect with a lot of different artists. And a few of my stories I've had the chance to make into illustrated stories, both the Overview Effect and Meet the Eastings both got to be illustrated by really wonderful visual artists. And so, yeah, check those out. Hopefully I've released more by then. But, yeah, my website's robclassactwrites.com.
Very, very cool. And Rob, if you do have any questions, feel free about Patreon. I can try and help out as best as I can.
Yeah, I'll shoot. I'm going to reach out to you and a few other writers I know who are doing the Patreon thing.
Yeah, I personally like Patreon a lot, although I've also got like a Sponsus and a few other ones just as backups because Patreon every once in a while likes to be weird about its terms of service. But as far as my projects go, yeah, my Patreon, you can go join it. But I'm hoping by the time this comes out, so just recently, the 253rd page of my comic Held Within got posted, and that is the last page of this first kind of chapter or phase of Held Within. And I can finally reveal the elevator pitch for Held Within because I had kept it a secret up until now. And that the elevator pitch for Held Within is this: what if there was a transformation comic that had been written as if it was an adventure storyline? And just the kind of weird, random, like character additions and switches and pivots as you would find if you were reading through like an adventure story that a bunch of people put together. But that's how I wrote my comic. And that's 253 pages done of that. I'm hoping by the time this comes out, that will be available for sale, collected somewhere. So look for Held Within on, I don't know, Google it with Dan Stanley. You'll get the thing for sale, or you'll get like an e-hentai hosting of it, one or the other.
Hold on, Dan. So
yes.
Do you get to plug your stuff every month? And so does that mean that you're going to, like, every time a podcast comes out, you get to hear yourself, like, plugging something from 6 months ago?
Sometimes I just say screw it and don't do it because I get tired of listening to myself.
Oh, no, you got to do that. That's awesome. Like, that's just a fun mental and temporal exercise. Like,
I will say that I have, and I've been editing some podcasts, realized, oh crap, I didn't do that. Oh well. Because I had also wanted to be doing some like YouTube live, like exploring what's in the Transformium collection things. And then like I got to that episode where I had, said, hopefully this will have happened by now. And I was like, well, add that to the list of things I got to still do. I'm like, no.
awesome.
So I'm hoping I'll have a collected Held Within out by that point. And I'm also hoping, and I'm saying this mostly as a reminder to myself in 6 months or whenever, that this is actually a really good memo system where it's just like, oh, yeah, by the way, future Dan, you really should have gotten this done by now. There is a possibility that I will have an animated project happening.
That's so cool.
I'm very excited. That's all I'm going to say, but this is more of basically creating a ticking clock for myself for having to actually have gotten all the turning gears for that figured out. So that's my pitch. Patreon.com/DSRedux, DSREDUX. if you want to check any of that out, or transformium.com. Done with the shameless plug on my own podcast.
And if my Patreon did work out, it's going to be called patreon.com/Robclassact. So, because I'm looking at the draft of it right now, and I'm like, oh man, I hope this is something that's rolling and working in 6 months.
Yeah. So, Fort, as part of our yearly interview, damn it, what are those called? The
Chekhov?
when you meet with your boss.
Oh.
When you meet with your boss and you do the
Review?
Thank you. As part of your yearly review, where do you see yourself in 6 to 8 months?
Oh, God. I don't even know. I mean, given that this is in November, I wasn't even sure what was going to happen now, let alone 2 weeks ago.
When we recorded a podcast episode, and now I feel really interesting about our attitudes during that episode.
Yeah. I mean, where am I going to be in like 6 months? Probably in a very similar position. I don't.
We'll be recording the commentary to this podcast.
Oh, like I don't like write. I don't create content in that way. I just kind of stream video games and put them up on YouTube. And other than that, like to give you guys an idea of what I've been doing lately, to help stave off anxiety, I grabbed a Gundam model kit I got when I was 12, and I have realized how poorly I did it when I was 12. And I basically went and I stripped all the paint off of it. I clipped all the flashing off and have filed it with like these really nice files I've gotten. Like I'm doing a professional redo painting of like an original version Gundam Wing Endless Waltz Gundam.
That's so cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think I've seen the pics on Instagram. People should check them out.
I basically just like I like disassembled it. I remember how to take it all apart, and I remember how to put it all together because like that's what I was about when I was 10. So now like I'm doing that, but like I'm not like, I don't have a Patreon.
In my mind,
though,
in my mind, Ford, I am imagining that you walk into it's a public space. You're about to meet like a contact, and you're not certain of like whether or not this contact is friendly or foe, or how much of in life your danger is. And you sit down, and just to sort of like intimidate them, you just drop heavily onto the table a Gundam model, which you then proceed to disassemble and then reassemble.
This is my heavy arms. There are many like it, but this one is mine.
It's like a Scaramanga in the Golden Gun, where you're just sitting there like taking out what appears to be just like really random like cufflinks and pens and everything, and then before this guy realizes it, you have a small Gundam that you've used to like bludgeon him over the head.
Oh my god, that'd be so funny. Like it all started because I was like, I've had this thing for forever, and like so the joints are kind of weak because it's been through like 6 moves. So like the arms are just hanging at its hips and like it's barely hanging onto the guns. I'm like, I'm gonna just super glue these joints together. And then I picked it up and I looked at it and I was like, this is bad. I gotta fix this. And now I am. So
awesome.
If you want to keep tips up to date on that one, let me figure out what my Instagram handle is, and you can check up on whatever it is I'm up to these days. I just backed another Kickstarter because I'm an idiot. So I'm going to be painting more miniatures.
Oh, I think I've got 2 pending. Although I don't think Romancylvania is going to happen. I have to double check though before it actually closes, because I just put a lot of money on that one.
Yeah, I back a lot of Steamforged stuff. So I have like figures from Horizon Zero Dawn and Devil May Cry and Dark Souls, and now it's going to be something called Bard Sung. So it's like D&D but different. I'm in it for the minis. I don't play the games. But now I have like 16 boxes of all these like, Kickstarter add-on stretch goal stuff, and I have to even prime them. Like, God help me.
See, I think I recently backed, the only thing in Kickstarter that I backed recently was there's a comic called Spinneret about a 6-armed superhero.
I've met the creator of Spinneret.
Oh, actually. Me too. I met the creator at one of the cons that I attended, and so yeah, a recent one came out with the giantess in it, and I was like, well, I could read it online, but I appreciate the shout out to our community, so I'm going to go ahead and support it and buy the in-person copy.
Yeah. They're actually I think it's like Spinneret is an Ohio, like maybe Akron or Canton area.
Like
so yeah, it's very strange being 20 minutes from where Spinneret supposedly exists. This is interesting.
Oh, by the way, for everyone at home wondering, my Instagram is thefortisreal, all one word, and you can keep up on my perlers and my cats and my beard.
It's a good beard.
Yeah, thank
Solid
you.
Beard.
Yeah, the mask beard is really killing me though. I don't have hat hair because I had to get rid of all of it, but the beard has a solid indent around the chin.
See, I've actually shaved everything off except for two Yosemite Sam style long. I'm twirling it out to about, I'd say, 5 inches here. Mustache, which tucks kind of like two tiny walrus tusks very, very nicely inside the mask. So,
wow, that's amazing.
I will admit 100%, this is not my idea. Amber's just really into it. So I'm not going to, what? Fine. I have no
happy wife, happy life, man.
I have no objections to it. Correct. So, but well, I think that's everything. Did we? Anybody think of anything else we normally do on this podcast? The co-host, cannot recall?
We need to put a call out the fact that we are taking submissions for advertisements. We charge very fair rates, and if you want to call out, it's not going to be like 6 months from now. It's going to be added into the next upcoming release, so we don't have to worry about your advertisement aging like milk. Yeah, feel free to get into contact with us at ModMeta at Gmail, right? ModMeta Podcast?
Modmetapodcast at gmail.com. If you'd like to email us and remind us what our email address is, it is modmetapodcast at gmail.com. And we'll be very grateful of you for that. Also, if you'd like to, pay us money to have an add-on here. Again, this is a podcast for the transformation community, and so therefore the ads are for the availability of transformation creators, because as I'm sure Rob can attest to, there's not a whole lot of places that, particularly if you're doing adult material, transformation creators can advertise. So I'm reserving our eventual spot to somebody. I want to thank Fort for bringing up the whole advertising thing that I have now taken over entirely.
You got it. I'm just glad I remembered.
And you can also, if you are interested in recommending a film and or graphic novel, which we actually did last episode, or television show or book or anything else that you'd like us to try out, send us an email there as well. Or if you are, I don't know, Chad Peter or somebody else who would like to be on the podcast, shoot us an email at modmetapodcast@gmail.com, and we'd be happy to have you on. That's how Rolf got on here. So, and it works. So,
as much as we love talking to each other, we also like the addition of a third, because who doesn't?
Rawr.
They certainly do in Apocalypse, California.
They certainly did. I mean, fourth if you include the pills. I mean,
yeah.
Everyone gets their own pills, so it's like 6 people.
Oh wow,
absurd.
I mean, is it obvious I'm stuck on the pills? Obviously.
A portion of them are clones of each other. So how do we count? Do we count clones? How do we count clones?
Sorry, I get to.
I don't want to be cloned.
To walk away with, but there's. Are you familiar with the comic Paper Girls?
No.
We got a couple of the first issues, but I haven't read recently.
There's a delightful quote in an issue of Paper Girls where one of them was like, "Wait a minute, are you the evil clone version?" And she goes, "You know what? In 20 years, that's going to sound super bigoted." Mm-hmm. that was one of my best takeaways from that. And it's a great series. It's a phenomenal series, but that line was just like gold.
But you're evil, and you're on the wrong side of history.
Yeah.
Clonist.
God. Who would say such a thing? Oh, man.
Well,
that's a good joke.
Anyway,
I like that joke.
It is a good joke. So, well, anyway, I am Dan Standing, attempting his best to not be a clonist, saying thanks for listening.
And I'm Alex Fort, on the fence about clonism.
I'm Robclassact, on the fence about clonism, but all in on sex pills.
We are anti-colonialism, though. I just want to make sure that's coming out clear.
Yeah, you add another O in there, and I'm against it.
Yeah. Hands down against that. So, as on ending on this strong opinion from Modern Metamorphoses, thanks for listening, and have a good night.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. You're welcome.
How could you say something so controversial yet so brave?
And out?
We didn't even get it off before.
This is why we do this. Oh, I love this.